I remember the sea blanketed me each night for 60,000 millennia. Do you remember your mother? I remember when this place was an ocean, and my peak was a baby, an island, a speck. I remember being a rock. Old as the hills goes your expression. Honey, you don't know the half. You reach inside me and find copper, but it's mine, that mine you think is yours. My life is to grow iron inside. I need it more than you need your armor, your autos. My life is to live after you've taken all that's mine, after you've cleared my forest and picked my fruit. My truth is regeneration your poets can't rhyme, your music can't sing. My lover is the wind. My first child you call dirt and devalue. My life you reduce to aluminum. But when you're gone, the wind will sing me celebration. Touch me soft. Let my metals rest. My places are sacred. In the end, you won't have them. Keep looking up at me, not because I hold your answers, but because hell will ring at your bones if you forget. My life is to do nothing, nothing in the wake of your penetrations. You call me a mountain. I call myself nameless, majestic as the god Jews won't pronounce. My life's pocked with caves. Come for a sit. Taste what it is to be mountains. Find space in your ribs. Find give in your spine. Find your porous nature at my granite face. My life needs no words. It's beyond this time. My life is to sit. My lover kicks up or dies, that ephemeral wind. My life is to wait for him, greet him still when he comes. Yearn with no passion, permanent peace. I comfort the stars, never envy their burning. Thank you. I have a couple short ones now on interconnectedness of humans and animals and whatever we hurt, we hurt ourselves. Yeah. There's a small. I lived in the Caribbean for 5 years, and there's a small village in the mountains in Jamaica called Mandeville, a farming village. This poem is Mandeville Kids. We sliced open pouches inside ourselves, distance from them. We tend the goats all week, slaughter them Sundays. A moving away, the backing up of old Ford trucks in our hearts. We grow them from kidhood, steam milk in bottles, let them suckle. Wrap our hands under whiskery chins, lead them to sustenance, away from salvation. And another small one here, this is perspective. I came to Zimbabwe when locusts, those vicious vegetarians, descend on the sorghum fields, ravenous in heat for their paradise of grass. Vendors set out walks the size of truck tires on the streets of Bulawayo, fixed crosses of wood under the convex, built fires, roasted buckets of locusts, Lay's chip crunchy, liberally salted, poured the little bodies in paper cones. Workers lined at lunch breaks, crusted ties with salt like proverbial cops with donuts that snow sugar powder on blue polyester chests. I claimed I was vegetarian to pause the social pressure. I'm vegetarian. Oh, so are the locust daughter. Eat, eat. Do you have any Michael Pollan fans here? Okay, me too, obsessed. This is a found poem in his The Omnivore's Dilemma. It's called Learned Helplessness. Premature weaning leaves a lifelong craving to suck, chew, a need piglets gratify in confinement, biting the tail of the animal in front of them. A normal pig would fight off its molester. A demoralized pig has stopped caring. Ignorant of earth, straw, sunshine, standing on metal slats over a septic tank, it's not surprising intelligent pigs get depressed. Depressed pigs allow their tails to be chewed off to the point of infection. Treating sick pigs isn't economically efficient. These underperforming production units are clubbed to death on the spot. The USDA recommends tail docking, a pair of pliers and no anesthetic for this porcine vice. Snip off most of the tail, not all. Why leave a little stump? The whole point of this exercise is to render the object more sensitive, pain a little more painful. Even the most demoralized pig will struggle to resist it. Shifting gears a little bit here, this next poem is me imagining a world where I unite with a small enemy to vanquish a bigger enemy. This is my mother and I put aside our differences to poison Benjamin Netanyahu's fish tacos. You mean you could poison anyone on earth and you didn't choose me? Her mouth an O. She wasn't wholly wrong. Temptation it was to flick a grain of cyanide at its center. We got bigger fish to fry, Ma. She didn't laugh at the pun. I sprinkled the poison into the batter, adjusted my KN9 against the dust, which prompted her to fix her own. 32 years of resentment a simmer, and still, we mirror. Could you pass the tilapia, please? Bibi would be there any minute. Saturday sun soon to set on our Shabbat. At birthright, Eyal curled his mouth and Lord, in 1947, Arabs protested the law, no work on Saturdays. They lost, but they were right. It is a Jewish thing, our Shabbat. I broke the law, for Netanyahu would come for Havdalah dinner. This was the ruse. Early I began to mix, chop, beat. Everything had to be perfect. It's not every day you get the chance to murder a prime minister in hot blood. So let us pray. Do we have to? She whined. No one's more religious than an atheist, boy. Yes, Ma, prayer does more for us than it does for God. She didn't understand, but bowed her head anyway, punched the switch on the stereo, muttered, "At least we'll get a break from your music," even though she loved reggae first. God, bless us with the courage and the strength to smite Netanyahu today, for we act in your name. We sanctify life. Absolutists we're not. We kill so the olive trees may reach their tortured twists of branches toward their stewards forevermore. If Ashjar al-Zaytun are family, we see who feeds them and who sends soldiers to tear them from the soil. We surrender Netanyahu back to you, God. You don't make mistakes, and so you have not mistaken us for people who won't poison a head of state. Thank you, Father. Amen. I averted my eyes when my mother rolled her eyes. More important, she shouldn't burn the fish. Oil, which bubbled while we prayed, graveyarded 7 battered fillets. My mother laid them side by side in the fryer-later. I quick-pickled cabbage, mashed avocado, spooned sour cream in a prep bowl. I bought a comal just for this, his last supper, rolled masa in my hands, pressed those yellow balls between iron plates, and fantasized about that innuendo come to life. They're ready, My mother spat. I don't like this. There has to be another way. There's not. I heard the host shuffle chairs, then his guttural thank yous in English outside the kitchen swinging doors. I layered crisp fish, aguacate, escabeche, y crema over tortillas. One last pinch of potassium cyanide, a squeeze of lime for je ne sais quoi. Goodbye, Babylon, goodbye, goodbye, Sizzla Kalonji sang from my playlist. Tell me your truths, right? Okay. So this is Briana Munoz, Tell Me Your Truths. It is not enough to just speak your truths. You must shout them. You must sing them into sky and storm and sow them into soil to create showers of lightning bolts that electrocute epiphany into the chests of those around you. Speak them in a way that others begin to memorize them, in a way that others compare your truths to their truths. Spit out hesitation and doubt like a wet loogie. You must analyze them under a microscope. Analyze them from the four directions and beyond. Tlahuitzlampa, I'm sorry about this, you guys. Huistlampa, Cihuatlampa, Mictlampa. Purge them from soul and body and mind. Your truth should be told in languages understood by all, tongued into dialect, danced into visual art. Your truth should be exhausted, wrestled every day, held in a chokehold, dehydrated. Performed like pageant queens or show ponies, filing claims to HR for exploitation. Written like burros at border towns, realized during hot baths or meditation. Your truth should be sharp like the edges of fenced wire that skating scoundrels hop over in attempts to outrun the cops. Your truth should never be muffled, should never be held under tongue to keep the boat from rocking. Your truth should wreak havoc against the narrow-minded and obsolete. Should know no color or sex or class or age. Your truth should be jarred and opened on your difficult days like ladybugs, penned aggressively, carved into bathroom stalls or tree bark, swallowed, swished from right cheek to left cheek like red wine. Your truth should never sell out. Your truth should be rooted beneath flesh under rib, but they should grow and extend like the breath of abuelita's pomegranate trees and the receding and crashing of the saltwater sea. Your truth should exist, resist, and long live.
Attempt to read with her in my arms. We'll see how this goes, if not, I'll pass around. Is it okay that I'm sitting down as far as the light? Okay. So, a huge congratulations to Ivy on her new libro. Yeah, I'm sure an incredible feeling to release it. I'm sure you're working on your next one now. Thank you, Ramiro, for hosting. So, real quick, I met Ivy last year when I was pregnant, and now she's here, so it's really neat to see you again. I also met Antonio back there. The three of us met at a workshop in Albuquerque. Jimmy Santiago Baca hosts a poetry workshop every year, so that's where I met them. And we connected did, and I said, if you go to the West Coast, I'll, let's get some readings set up, and I'll come with. So now we're here. I love this space, the Achuchas, which is why I feel so comfortable being up here with a baby in my left hand and reading from the other. And this space is a radical community, cultural space, and everyone that's associated in this space is familia, I feel, including Ramiro. So I have a lot to say, but I'll just start reading, I think. This is titled, If I Were to Turn Myself into a Poem. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd give myself a pair of legs so that I could travel to Santiago, Chile, the place of Neruda's death, and backpack to Borges' Buenos Aires. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd bring with me in my transformation all of the heartache, the way my mother's gentle body laid atop a pull-out couch next to Dad's hospital bed nightly, or the way he never climbed back into his leather-worked saddles. I'd bring with me everything I still have not allowed the heart to write about. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd be an erotic poem, slithering around the neck, the fingertips, and into the optic nerve of the reader. They would shut their door to safely consume me as a poem. If I were to turn myself into a poem, my format would consist of hilltops and flatlands, and it would appeal to all five senses. In reading the poem, you'd pick up notes of sin and sacred sage. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I would flow like the Snake River of the Pacific Northwest. I'd move sly and easy. The reader would close their eyes and put their hands on the waist of the poem, dance and wrestle, and even tongue kiss the poem. If I were to transform myself into a poem, I would unlearn the language of all white male poets taught to me in grade school. Instead, I would be a Mother Earth poem, a sacred soil poem, a floricanto poem. If I were to turn myself into a poem, the poem better be no saint. That poem would be a chain smoker playing dominoes in back alleys. That poem would have a thick accent like Theo Chewy and a gut from pork chicharron dishes. If I were to turn myself into a poem, I'd be a melting pot of all poets. 21st century poems that I've read and reread and involuntarily released to gasp. Poems that I didn't want to end, that I wanted to live inside of. Poems that I've read and shouted to the page, "Oh, you clever, clever bastard." And the poems of all the poets we have lost. And in my body of a poem, they resurrect and reincarnate, as poets are immortal, clinking glasses of champagne amongst libraries and bookshelves. Thank you. This is working out a little bit better than I thought. When we were scheduling these, we're planning, I think we started scheduling this like at the end of last year. And I was like, yeah, moms can do anything. I just didn't figure out the logistics ahead of time, so here we are. This is titled Body as Self-Ceremony. I take inventory. My fingers, instruments for writing poems, poems that gracefully attack against fascism, against the war. My elbows at dinner. I question who invented table manners, discover this as past construct, discover tastes in my mouth like conquest, breasts, Western culture teaches me to have breasts is to be a devil, temptress, mujer sin vergüenza, taboo from birth. Birth awakens the ducts to flow liquid gold into the innocence of my baby. Everything about my breasts is natural. Nature is sacred, therefore I am. My navel, life source, phantom limb, center of my vessel, I mourn the placenta that was separated from me 30 years ago. Physician, tastes in my mouth like wary. My ancestors knew this. Modern society grows wary of traditional medicine. Tastes in my mouth like big fucking pharma. Pelvis, holy sacrum, cervix, utero, clitoris, clitoris, clitoride, clitoris. Maybe if I spell it in every language, they, men, will find it. Clitoris, tastes in my mouth like ceremony. Thighs, disguised as miniskirt, attraction, dictionary, attraction. A place which draws visitors by providing something of interest or pleasure. Example, the church is the town's main tourist attraction. Thighs built to climb Teotihuacan temples, my body, city of the gods, the most holy land, sunrise ceremony dedicated to the breath I am allowed every day. Thank you. One time I called the Teotihuacan temples pyramids, and Ramiro corrected me real quick. Temples. I'm going to read one more, and then I will read Leslie's poem. And I think this is very appropriate considering I'm holding my baby while she's sleeping. But yeah, the situation overseas with Palestine, I think, has been very difficult for a lot of people to write about because it's such a complex and devastating issue. And this is my poem response to that. And I will try to read this without crying. There's an intro, but I think if I read it, I will cry, so I'm going to skip it. As my baby sleeps, I think of the genocide that rages like wildfire across the ocean. The wildfire that is ethnic cleansing carried out by the IDF, the colonization that is warfare, the warfare that exists like a black plague, the plague that is the military-industrial complex. That is the USA, Greed, Lockheed Martin, that is Raytheon, Greed, that is Airbus. Small babies deserve a warm bassinet. Also, if this is just like a content warning, if you're uncomfortable, you can step aside and, lots of emotions. Small babies deserve a warm bassinet. Small babies deserve living parents. When we shop at the market for infant formula, do those sales taxes fund the bombing of labor and delivery units in Gaza? If my body is the safest home to my baby, are the orphan children of Gaza now homeless? Is there an ancient document that receives worship that allows children to be buried by rubble? Mothers deserve to see their children grow, seed to soil to spring to empowered youth. Flowers cannot grow in an active combat zone. I want to tell my daughter that we are not so special. We were just born on this side of the empire. I want to tell my daughter that our poems have the power to burn it all to the ground. I want to tell my daughter that we are all sacred. We are all kin. We are all relatives. We were all born into innocence, and I will. As I watch my baby sleep, I pray for all the people of Gaza. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everybody. Humboldt Dream by Leslie Ortega. Starberries stain our brown hands with purple, red, and crisp. The air bites our ears. We smell the bake sale down the street. Each tattered fence covered in lichen lace, toggling between age and grace. The old man paper boy yells, "Good morning," with a glee that follows the banana slug's pace. Pockets of flowers in sewage holes, dandelions' heads poke from dried, non-native visitors. There is hope in becoming the next, the first, the third, or fourth generation of sustenance, of life, of breathing change and of abysmal dismay. I can't say I'm into nature. How can you be into something that you already are? Hands in our pockets, faces towards the fog, an uncommon force. So light I'd give my 8 hours for 10 minutes of just that. I chase the fog like a grandmother. She can't go fast, but soon she's gone. We pick up shards of glass, plastic bottles, still remnants of ancestral cellulose. Get another dose. Staring at the ceiling, I can hear the stars beaming. I don't reach for my phone. Madre Tierra is revealing. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you Briana. It was cool to see. I mean, that's a new piece of mine, so it was nice to hear it from another voice. I brought my chapbook today, but I have new work, so I'm just gonna read from myself. I'm gonna start with this poem I wrote recently. I think it took me a couple years to write because I just bouncing off of Briana's last poem. I couldn't finish it until I kind of was seeking another outlet, so I listened to a lot of System of a Down on repeat. Mm-hmm. So this one's called Eat, Eat. At dinner, we plan on how to eat the rich. Throw away our cobalt-wired phones and make do with a homemade pager. What do we really need to send? At dinner, we plan on how to eat the rich. Start with what rich means in westernized comedies: a salary beyond the means, owner of acreage, rich in extensive comfort, the kind where you never have to touch the ground with a bare soul, the kind where you never have to breathe the same air as a farm laborer, never worry about the next grocery bag to fill. At dinner, we write out a diversion plan. Start with convincing the world our designer bags are filled with necessity. Yet the Starbucks cups caked onto the cup holders can't be taken away, along with the caked on makeup of KK, supporting visionaries of beauty, highlighting faces of multiple dimensions. The color no longer speaks for itself. The color remains celebrity, funding things that we refuse to see: starvation, homelessness, and genocide relentlessly. Clutch your pearls, we're not going anywhere, we're not going anywhere. The voices will rise like blood-stained hands on the coffin of the rich. What makes you feel good? Retail therapy is a running joke, pulling out thorns from children's calloused hands. Sustain the global world in our hands. Our phones won't bleed until we see our hands with the blade. Feeding the rich behind our phone screen, dripping into credit card statement after credit card statement after credit card statement. We can eat the rich. as soon as we learn how rich we are, blessed to come from roots that may or may not be alive, chosen family rooted in similar wavelengths, threaded through unseen mycelium like blood veins. The closer you get, the warmer the sun gets inside. I dream of all celebrities, followers to go down to the hundreds. Hundreds at the bottom of the barrel. Maybe they can see us there, but we'll be floating as they witness us in awe like polluted air, pink and purple hues of an unforgiving sunset. We continue to be unforgiving sunsets, sustaining the value of corporate greed, masked availability to the world. We can all be seeds, but some reach for the sky too early and deplete. Thank you. So the other poems are, my recent work has been focusing on the theme that Ivy has selected. And I think it's been hard to just exemplify how can we see ourselves in the waterfalls and the streets and the mountains and all of these things that we kind of glorify on a daily basis because we're so used to, we gotta go to work, we gotta feed ourselves and our families. So this one's called Over Roasted Beans. You'll never go hungry in this field. The one where your fingernails are clacking on plastic pedestals, turning numbers into alphabets, into capital assets. Kaleidoscope eyes fade into another field full of starberries and foggy frogs, but it's still just a desk. A really sharp one with an automated button for pressing anxieties away. Stand tall, sit down, stand tall, sit down, stand tall, sit down. Necks turning to portals of distress. Just before a sigh of relief for another red light. Silky corn husks blow through the crack of the window. A squash grows between the sidewalk and a hard place. Shaped in modern ways, will we eventually reject the cups of coffee? Thank you. I'll read two more. I have some that are in Spanish, so I haven't read this one. I'll start with this one and end with the Spanish one. This one's called If You Take Away the Heart. If you simmer away like oil, pustules pop up on a face. We call it acne. If we take away the heart of it, there is discipline. The unbridled hand on the cheek, the change from melanin to dark, dark red. If you take the heart away, there is no photosynthesis left. Dracula soul covered behind a desk. At least the pay is good. To pay the mortgage, to hunt the dogs in your sleep, to ridicule the trans and cis of modern chemistry. There will be fools. There will be derogatory fools if you take away the heart. Of course, we cannot live without it, but there are various instruments that can pump, that can grind, with the mildest notion of being alive. My mother always said the government can provide what a father can't if you take away the heart. Thank you. So this last one is, well, now I'm torn between two. I'll try to focus on. This one is another recent piece. It starts with Spanish and then it goes to English, but it's like a part 1, part 2 of the similar theme. So this one's called Adrede, on purpose. Adrede lo hiciste, ¿verdad? Dejando la puerta abierta para que todo el aire se iba. Que se vaya con el dinero que yo recogí del suelo hace muchos años. Ay, como que adrede. Nos vamos al casino a jugar las maquinitas. Todos quieren perreo como los perros en la calle. No más somos sin cara, sin nombre, semillitas tumbados, sin la plataforma para anunciar que está bien que nos caigan mal. La señora amargada nos enseña sus cejas pintadas. Los niños saben de más colores que eso, como el chapulín en el valle. Pero ay, síguele, mi abue nos dice. Primero caminando hasta el fondo, sin ninguna idea qué era al fondo en ese tiempo. A la derecha o derecho, échale ganas y no te rajes. There are charter buses, refurbished buttons, slap a sticker on a bus, call it Dodger Stadium shuttle. How easy to accommodate large crowds that feed the big mouth of the beast. To the casinos, the ball games, glamorization of free. Hold true that it's been property over people. Less degradation of the concrete underneath us if we buzz on through. There are living things all over this city, olvido and regret. That the towering water fountain of another Versace, Veni, Vidi, Vici building pumps the watery veins of this immaculate city, bringing the worst out in us, most of us. How I wish the water from the fountain was deemed toxic to the air, to the people, not the ones living in the high-rises. They worked so hard to get there, so hard to get there. Restless nights, pocketing money that ain't relatively fast to the strike of the Listoyo. Remember the Fonda? Reclaiming is working in the building to end up on the stage, holding others' breaths in unrelenting communication. Furby toys, beaded things found after concert goers' crumb trail. There will be shuttles for the unhoused, to dump them into the Badlands for another Olympics. We find it easy to fill our mouths with utter sadness and lack of action. Let the other mouths starve. Let the other's feet get soaked in the puddles. Mira, como la ausencia se nos olvidó, a return to ourselves. ¿Quién iba a decirnos que así llegamos? Así llegamos con voces bien altas, que los niños nos olviden. Si no te acuerdas ser humano, ni ser niño, ni ser de la tierra, nos persiguen en un container de ausencia, buscando y bailando en cuartos vacíos de labios intoxicados al breve. Thank you. No, before I read this, I'm going to read our next interconnect for Ivy to read some more of her work. I just want to thank Briana for inviting me and Ivy, Ramiro for holding space for all of us. This is a very necessary space and event. 21st century Yom Kax? After Dahlia Ivy Raff. Ready. Not the animals themselves, you understand, but animalness. Chanel says, as soon as I hear people described as savages, on TV, I'm on their side. Salvaje la selva, las sendas. I go in, I don't come out. There's a space between my brains. Two halves where a thrashing raccoon lives, and when my brain breaks, open she's claws to the world. See Paraguay, see Jersey, see Sarah's refusal to pay what she owes me. I keep waiting for the raccoon to grow long legs, flop ears, turn into a spaniel.
Yeah, Leslie, that was, just loved hearing both of you read. And Leslie mentioned that she's been working recently in the theme that I came up with when it was actually Leslie's work that inspired me to think of the theme for this event. Leslie is a mycologist, and when I was introduced to her, I just started thinking of mushrooms and the root systems and how they can look like separate organisms, but they're connected underneath, and there's no such thing as doing something to one of them that doesn't affect the rest. Briana mentioned that she and I met when we were both studying with Jimmy Santiago Baca in Albuquerque last year. I went to that workshop also the year before in May 2022. And right after the workshop, I took a little road trip by myself in southern New Mexico. And it was during that week that two things happened in Texas that really shook the world. And I was in the Southwest, which to me just looks like, you know, I'm from New York City, like rural southern New Mexico, it's like this amazing alien landscape to me. And so I was there when I received this news. And it was in that state that I wrote this poem, which is called No Children, in 4 parts. 1, empty basilica, wood slat walls, white Jesus expressionless, blue eyes and blue eyes and blue eyes and more inaccuracies in the courtyard. A plaque, in memory of the unborn, we will not forget the victims of abortion. I remember the plastic sample cup, the doctor's hands, the white dot narrower than my pinky nail, bubbling slightly like mud after rain. Victimless, except me, in memory of something that was nothing except me begging that man to use a condom and his silent, smirking refusal. But who cares about that anyway? Let the Catholic Church etch a plaque and drop it on stones in the desert. 2. Parque de la Cura Ramon Ortiz, separated from El Calle Principal by 1 block and 1 extinct ash-smothered arroyo. Silent, but for the sparrows and the hooting of white-winged doves, an engine turning in the breezed-over distance. No children fill the sun-faded jungle gym. No children creak the seesaw. No children shriek on swoop-backed pelican seats. No children ride the stallion with his black pink hair heat-rotted off. The horse and the pelicans guard nothingness, dead sentinels still on the clock. The basketball nets motionless, blue picnic tables dull with dust. The slide longs to melt. The monkey bars droop in the air. 3. Yesterday in Uvalde, Texas, a man with a gun killed 19 babies and 2 school teachers. Spare yourself the photos of the children. bespectacled or chubby-cheeked, taut backpack straps, vamping before birthday cakes, rosary draped, t-shirted, arch-browed, friendship bracelets stacked, satin bowed on Wella's lap, ponytailed under Thea's arm, half wrapped in sister's graduation gown and beaming. 4. Blackbird slices sky. A man rolls by on a bicycle and cranes his neck in my direction, cocks an eyebrow as if I am lost. I am, and I have been. We are, and we have been. Rapid change of setting. This is a Jersey Shore poem. It's called The Long Stripe of Setting Sun. In the long stripe of setting sun, at the hour of day when God sets on this side of the world and wakes on the other, on the beach, I cry for a man who loves me but won't keep me. I write and write and write, and God tells me I'm everything they made me, indistinguishable and whole, a heart like sand at low tide, a pillow miles wide, easy to rut, and healable with salt wash of wave, abalone sheen for a surface. I look up, blink through tears, a white set of humps on the horizon, too far to tell substance or scale. A cruise ship? Whales? I approach the water's edge. Earth curvature steals the shapes. Maritime geography swallows them with tricks of angle, perspective. I'd come to be close, and the distance pushes me away. So here I stand. A lone gull flirts with lapping foam that holds her dinner, runs in for nourishment, runs away from a drowning as each small wave breaks. I turn back to the boardwalk, make my way home in fast cooling air. High moon brightens behind me. Lavender wisps thicken where sky meets sea. 1,000 shards of broken shell crunch beneath my feet, original sculpture lost to injury. Slices of arcs in calcium's hues, khaki, rose, orchid. One more millennium, and there'll be sand. I'm also torn, so I get what you were. All right, this next piece is called The Quiet, and I wrote it in Valle de Bravo, Estado de Mexico. This is Gina. You guys say hi. Gina's brilliant. She's a writer. I met her at an artist residency in Morelos, Mexico last month. So yes, Valle de Bravo, Estado de Mexico, and this is after Ada leaving. Again in 4 parts. 1. Let me rest at Piedra Herrada quiet. Las monarcas fly from Canada. 3 or 4 generations die in the air after feedings quiet, copulation quiet, wings quiet, metamorphosis silent. Grandparents and their parents dead in air. Corpses litter a continent, and you've never seen a wasted butterfly, have you? I have not. 2. I Zoom call the editors in Seattle and advocate for the set of poems about the Midwest. I lived there. I pontificate with my false pandemic expertise. These pieces capture the spareness, the non-touch with which people touch each other. A quietness, muses Joyce, and I think she can't hear the thud of the drunk husband hitting the floor like I can. My ear, attuned to liquor quiet and smoke quiet. My man telling me I never say anything interesting quiet. I promise, when you listen for space between the syllables, it's perfect silence. 3. There's wave quiet, and rainbow quiet, and scream quiet, and carnival quiet, mountain quiet, music quiet. Things that sound so loud to me, airless pockets embed them all. How fast, how far can I zoom in to moth quiet and cough quiet, jazz quiet, jacket quiet, quiet in my slides, quiet in my jeans. All the transient quiets that undulate time fabric, metal quiet, monster quiet. 4. I've littered my little dead body across 4 continents, and you've never seen me wasted, have you? Butterfly quiet, poet quiet. I never let fear stop me, and I'm afraid all the time. Silence. Right, I thought we'd end on a love poem and then a poem about a baby. And what a blessing to have 2 babies here today. Amazing. All right, this is called The Artist Called. The artist called God crafted sparrows and their sycamores. One purple midnight, the sparrows loosed songs as irises unfolded. My legs, violin strings, in the photosynthetic hands of the man the artist sent me. They never sing at night, the man whispered. Isn't that odd? And as his body closed over mine, they silenced. All night he moved forward, a wave that never reached shore, never longed for shore. Sparrows, sky spines, know nothing of floods like this, though their evolution warned them its depth. After their serenade, they left the winds of their spot lungs to trail, drown in fragile bells of ribs, drifted to sycamore sleep, while the man and I whipped gales, Atlantic. So this last one is called My Newborn Nephew Closer to God Checks Whether We Need to Keep Doing All This. Oh, so this is what happens, Auntie? We set down clarinets, abandon pianos. God says you don't have to. God says you keep playing the music. God keeps playing. God keeps. God. So, Auntie, this is what happens. We stake our internal claims as dictator. God says you don't have to. God says you let yourself burrow under warm soil in the forest as a tender animal. God lets you be a tender animal. God lets you be. God lets. God. Auntie. My sweet auntie who loves books and trees like me, who loves robins and the neighbor's saturated stereo like me. Is this what we do? We crack whips across our backs so our blood will know which direction to flow. Does it forget? Does the fluid run low if we don't monitor? Correct? God says you don't have to. God says they know all about your blood and will move it the right way until it's time for you to go back again. God knows all about your blood. God knows all about you. God knows all. God knows. God. And I hope this person won't get mad at me for putting them on the spot, but there's someone who is so special to me, who showed up, drove from San Diego, because he's a player of games, and that is Antonio Sanchez, who's in the back row there. And he's another. Met me 2 years ago at Baka's workshop also, and this is the putting you on the spot part. I'm wondering if you have a poem that you would like to read to us.
Yeah, I could read one.
Okay. and maybe you can just tell, your story is so special, maybe you can just say a few sentences about it.
Hi, my name's Antonio Sanchez. I met Ivy a couple of years ago at the Jimmy Santiago workshop, and I do Zooms with her sometimes. I'm kind of, life takes you in different directions a lot of times. I met Briana a year ago, and she's where I'm from, pretty much. I'm from Escondido, she's from San Marcos, down there in San Diego County, and I really enjoy listening to them read. I was in prison for 36 years, so the world is completely different, and I've always enjoyed writing, and and listening to what other people have to say. And I did write a poem on Thanksgiving Day. Almost all my family are deceased, so on Thanksgiving Day I went to the cemetery. I stayed there with all our relatives. It doesn't have a title, but it's called, so I'll just start reading it. I'm traveling into the spirit world to give thanks to my ancestors who are no longer here. I hear the drums are calling me to come home. Not to stay, just to visit. I bring offerings, stories, how nothing has changed. We're still living in the rest. My extended family surrounds me. They shift shape into trees, fly in the sky as eagles, turn into a gentle stream. I touch the earth with full awareness, watch the sun between the clouds. I close my eyes, hear the drums, they are fading with time. So that's a poem So I wrote that on Thanksgiving Day. We have a lot of family that's buried in Oak Hill Cemetery, and we're all stationed around the same area, or put in the same area. And I remember when I was just sitting there, they have a tree to the side, and I was sitting there cleaning the gravestones and stuff. I looked, and there was a coyote just watching me. It didn't come towards me or nothing. It just stared at me, and when I was done doing whatever I wanted, it turned around and just walked away. I thought that was pretty cool. It was everybody appreciated that I was there on Thanksgiving. But that's it. And Ivy, you put me on the spot. But I'd like to thank everybody. And I did come all the way to see Ivy and Briana. And my niece, she drove me today. That's my niece right there. So we made the trek all the way up here. And we got here a little bit late because traffic is bad. And we tried to leave early to make it on time, but we made it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Ivy and Briana and Leslie. And this is great, empowering, inspirational, hopeful. A lot of emotions from so I really appreciate it. And so just forget we got Ivy's book. Rooted and Reduced to Dust. Again, I have it right now, but order it and lots of copies. Give it to your friends and family. They'll all enjoy it. Either pick it up at Jessica's or they'll deliver it to you. And also, don't forget also, once you're done with that one, make sure on her next one, what remains together is coming out at the end of the year. So, you're getting a lot of items. Good. Whole year writing. And then we also have Briana's book, right? Everything Returns to Soil. But she will. Make sure we'll work on that. We'll make sure Leslie gets her book out there, and So yeah, no, thank you all, everybody. So then again, let's go back to the theme, right? And remember those. I don't know if everybody remember those questions that we were asking. But if you have any questions on your own, please feel free to. But how can we uncover the roots of our compassion? How do we build communities, families, cultures, and selves that honor our interconnected faiths? You can either talk to them about those questions for yourselves. The poets are here. Talk to them about it. If anybody has any questions right now, I mean, I don't know, we could really have a few minutes. If not, they're going to be here for a while. I don't know if there's anything online, no questions from anybody that's out there in the metaverse. Okay. Anybody have anything before we go? Thank you all again. Keep coming to the Echuchas. Keep supporting our poets. This is all important. Keep supporting each other. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.